All right, so today we're jumping into a deep dive on a really distinctive theological commentary. Witness owes the revelation and message of Patmos. Our mission here is to really get our heads around his core concept, something he calls eschatological holy war theology, or EHW for short.
And it's so much more than just a commentary on Revelation. It's a whole new lens, a structural framework that sort of reinterprets all of Scripture.
Whole new paradigm.
Exactly. For you, listening, what we're really unpacking is this idea of viewing the biblical narrative as one long strategic conflict, not just a series of historical events.
And to really set the stage for this, we have to talk about the author, Witness O himself, because his background is, well, it's not what you'd expect.
Not at all. He built this combat-focused spiritual framework after years of deep involvement in Eastern spiritual practices.
Things like Danjigugong and even divination.
Right, and Buddhism. So he wasn't coming from a standard Western seminary perspective. His research, starting around 2003, had this very martial focus.
Which explains the name.
It explains everything. EHW views all of salvation history, from creation all the way to Christ's return, as one continuous cosmic war between God's kingdom and Satan's.
Okay, so let's unpack that. If everything is a war history, what does EHW do with, the established theology, covenant theology, for instance? Does it just get thrown out?
No, and that's what's so interesting. It explicitly builds on it. It says those core truths, like progressive revelation, are essential.
But not enough on their own.
Exactly. They're insufficient. EHW just overlays this war structure on top of them to give it all a more practical meaning. It turns the theology into more of a field manual.
A field manual, I like that. So if the foundations are still there, how does this war structure actually change the way we're supposed to read Revelation itself?
It changes the rhythm. Structurally, EHW sees the end times as having this repetitive and cumulative progression. The conflicts and judgments just keep coming and they get more intense each time.
And it uses something called telescopic chronology.
Yeah, that's the term. Sounds a bit academic, I know.
Break it down for us.
All it means is that prophecy isn't just one single point on a timeline. Think of it like a camera lens. You can have something in the foreground in focus and something in the background in focus at the same time.
So a prophecy can have a small fulfillment now, but the big ultimate fulfillment is still way off in the future.
You got it. That's the idea.
That feels like a more flexible approach.
Yeah.
So where does EHW stand in those big theological debates, like, say, with dispensationalism?
It takes a very clear stance there. It explicitly rejects dispensational premillennialism.
So no rigid timetables, no strict separation between Israel and the church.
None of that. But because it still reads Revelation as being primarily about the future, about the end times, it does align much more closely with some features of historical premillennialism. It's all about future-focused preparedness.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me. If this is a cosmic war, EHW has to define the main event, the peak conflict on Earth. Where is it?
It's centered squarely on the confrontation between the two witnesses from Revelation 11 and the eschatological beast from Revelation 13. That's it. That's the ultimate showdown on Earth, a battle of prophetic testimony against centralized world power.
So where does that leave you, the person listening to this? How is the Christian defined in this war? Surely not just as a spectator.
Absolutely not. EHW presents this really powerful dual identity. First, the church is the holy bride.
Preparing through internal purity, piety, that kind of thing.
Right. But at the same time, the church is God's army. And that second part demands active, combative spiritual struggle.
And that army role has to be more than just personal devotion, right? What does that struggle actually look like?
It means a proactive, prophetic testimony, one that directly confronts those world powers, the beast, instead of just shrinking the spiritual battle to an internal one.
Which means you have to be prepared for actual conflict.
Yes. And the framework is clear that this includes the necessity of sacrifice, even martyrdom. It's seen as an integral part of that final battle.
If the church is an army, it needs a strategy. What's the ultimate tactic that EHW calls for?
This is the final and maybe most urgent call to action. It urges believers to move beyond focusing only on their individual church.
To stop being so isolated.
Precisely. And instead to prioritize union and alliance among churches. That unity is presented as the essential tactic for both survival and victory.
So at the end of the day, EHW is offering a uniquely strategic, almost military guide for believers preparing for Christ's return.
It is. And if we take that one step further, it leaves you with a really important question to think about on your own. If unity is the primary strategy for God's army, what specific practical alliances should believers be prioritizing right now to actually prepare for that conflict? How do you bridge the gap between being the bride and being the army? That's something to mull over.